In our previous tutorial, we talked about hash table, what is hash table, the advantage and disadvantage of hash table. In this tutorial, we're going to be implementing hash table in Python. Then in our next tutorial, we're going to be handling collision in hash table. So I'm going to explain every step along the way. So if you're a beginner, relax, this is beginner friendly. So let's get started. So I'm going to make comments so that you understand it as we code along. So let's make a comment here. Let's call this creating hash table. Then let's create a class of hash table. Spelling. And let's initialize this class with our init function. Then in this class, we're going to be defining the size of our table. So let's call this self.size equal to, let's say 10. Then table. So let's define the shape of our hash table. So this is self.table equal to for underscore in range self.size. So let me explain what I did here. So here I initialize the size of our hash table to be 10. On line 5, I'm defining the shape for our size table. So this hash table contains an array, an empty array of 10 sizes or 10 buckets. So now what I did is I said for dash in range. So I'm trying to implement list comprehension in Python. So list comprehension, we have list comprehension and tuple comprehension. So list comprehension is just a way to shorten our for loop in Python. So I'm trying to say for, let's call this I, in range of this range of 10, create an empty array. So the reason why I use underscore here initially was in programming, you can actually use an underscore if you are not much concerned, or if you don't really have use for the iterator. But in the case where you have use for the iterator, let's say I want to pass in our iterator here, then that's when I'll put I here. But since I'm not using our iterator, I can put an underscore here. So this is how to do this. So now let's create functions for our hash table. So let's create our hash functions first. Let's call this get hash. So this takes in a key. Let's pass this first. Let's define our next function, which is our sets function. So this takes in an argument of key value. Let's pass this. Let's define our next function. It's our get item function. So this takes in a value of key, not item, since we're working with key. Let's also pass this. Then let's define our next function, which is our delete function. So delete item. This takes in an argument of key. Let's pass this. Now, just like I explained in my previous tutorial, I talked about hash table and what is hash. So hash table work with the principle of hashing. So hash table stores entering in the hash table in an associative manner, that is key value pair. So now this hash table contains what they call buckets or slots. So this empty array and the slots or bucket of our hash table. So if this is 10, let's do this here. Let's make some comments here. Let's say we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. So this is our buckets or slots. So each of these empty array or slot has an index associated with it. So this is 0, this is first empty arrays at index of 0, second at index of 1, 2, 3, 4 down to the end. So these are the buckets or the slots. So now we are trying to store a key value pair in this buckets or slots, but I don't know how to go about storing them. So we can't just store them anywhere we like. It needs to be done systematically, and that is where the hash function comes in place. So what the hash function does is it takes in a key and hash the key. Hashing the key simply means it changes the key from a string to an index or an integer that's equal to a slot here. So we can actually pass a key and the key will be hashed to become index 0 or index 1 or index 2. So that is the index we want to store our particular item. So this is how hash functions work. So let's implement this now. So it's very simple to implement. So let's initialize a variable of h to be 0. And let's loop through our key. So h, I'm going to explain what I'm doing. It's to odd and then char here. So let's return h modulus self dot size. Okay, now so what I did here is very simple. I initialize a variable of h to be 0. So now on line 9 I'm trying to loop through the past key. So the iterator here is the character, the char iterator here. So the char is trying to loop through this key. So if I pass in a key of match 6 for example, so this is the key match 6, right? So each of these alphabets here will be looped through, including the space and the 6. So we're trying to loop through each of these characters here, including the space. So when we loop through these characters, we convert these characters to an integer using this odd function. So this odd function is just a way of converting a character or a string of characters, that is a single character, to an index that's equivalent to that alphabet or character. Hope this is clear. So the opposite of this is the char function. This char function converts an integer to a string. So just like we have our float that converts a number or an integer to a float, then we have int that converts maybe a float to an integer. So this odd function converts a single character, it is a single alphabet, to an integer using the ASCII number. You can read more about that. So when this character, each of these characters is converted to an index or integer, it is now added to our initial variable of h, which is 0. So as we loop through it, we keep adding the particular integer of that letter. After adding it, then we come down to line 11, then we return this. So we add up the total integer of this key, then perform modulus operation, that is, we divide it by the size of our array, which is 10, and return the remainder parts. That is what this modulus operation do. So now we'll run this and see. So let's also implement our set item function. So let's define index go to self dot get hash and our key. I'm going to explain what I'm doing here. So self dot table at this index equals to key value. Okay, so this is simple. So on line 14 here on line 13 we passed a key and value as an argument here. So let's say we are passing match 6 as key, then 120 as value. So when we pass this key value pair here, so the key is hashed here, just like I explained. This match 6 is converted to an integer that is associated with a slot or a bucket in our hash table. So when this is hashed, then on line 15 I'm trying to say store this key value pair in this table at this particular index or bucket, the hashed index or bucket. So this is it. So let's say here, after passing in match 6 as our key and 20 as our value, at this point here we're trying to, after hashing, let's say we'll get 9 as our index. So now here we have, this is our bucket or slot in our hash table. This is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down to 9. So at bucket 9 we're trying to store this key value pair. So we're trying to store this key value pair at bucket 9. Okay, now let's implement our gets item function. So let's also do same. So self index self dot gets hash function is takes in our key. Now passing a condition if key equal to self dot table at this index and at this index. I'm going to explain this, then return self dot table at this index and at this index. Okay, now let me explain this. This is quite tricky, but we're going to crack it now. Relax. So let's say we passed in our key here and this key is hashed here, right? So let's say when this key is hashed, we have 9, right? And meanwhile our key value pair was stored in bucket 9. So when the key is passed here, we're trying to get the item here. So when this key is passed here, it is hashed to 9. When this is hashed to 9, then we're trying to give a condition if the key now is match. Let me make a comment here. Key now is match 6. This is the key. So if the key, which is match 6, is equal, let me use English layman's language. If match 6 is equal to our value stored, our key value pair stored at this index. Now take note, when we stored our key value pair here, we stored it in an associative manner like this. Our key is match 6 and our value is 120. So this is how we stored our key value pair. So this match 6 here is at index of 0. So let me make an arrow like this. So match 6 is at index of 0 and 120 is at index of 1. That is, when we store this, match 6 is at index of 0 and match 120 is at index of 1. So we're trying to say if key, which is 6, match 6, is equal to the key value pair is equal to, let me type this here, is equal to the key value pair stored at the index of 9, which is our hashed key. Now this particular index of 9, we still have an array that contains key value. So at index of 9, then at this index, which is 0, so at index 0 we have our key there, right? So we're trying to say if our key, which is match 9, is equal to the match 9 stored in our hash table at index of 9, then return the value stored at in our hash table at index of 1. So the value stored at index of 1 is 120, so we'll return 120 here. So let's run this code then before. Okay, let's implement our delete function first, then we'll run everything together. So the same thing applicable to implementing our delete. So let's also get our index self dot get hash. Let's hash our key. Then let's do same now. Let's give it a condition. If key is equal to self dot table at this particular, it's our index, our hashed index at index of 0 in our bucket, which means the key. Then let's now do this. Let's set our that particular array to be none. So empty array. Okay, so this is what I did here. So here I'm trying to say if key passed here is equal to the key passed or stored in our hash table at this particular index, that is index 9, at index is equal, then let's delete that key value pair by rendering that array to become an empty array. Hope this is clear. So let's implement this and see. Let's first create our, let's call this ht for hash table, an instance of our hash table. We have hash table here, so this is okay. So let's first print our hash table and see how our hash table looks like. So ht dot table. Let's run this code and see. So as you can see, we have an empty array of 10 buckets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So each of this array has index of 0, 1, 2, 3 down to 9. Right? This is, or these are the buckets. So now let's add key value pair. Let's call this match 6 equal to 120. Right? So let's print, let's try to fetch, let's fetch our ht at ht dot table at index of or key of match 6. Okay, let's run this and see. Well, first let me comment. Okay, let's run this. Let me comment this out first, then run this code and see. So as you can see, we have match 6 and value of 120 at index of 9, because we passed in match 6 here. So now let's try and fetch this and see. It's running. Okay, we have an error here. Let's try to resolve this error. So trying to fetch a value of match 6 here. So okay, so let's fetch this now. can see we have 120, right? So that is the value. So now if I change this, if I remove this one here, which is the location of our index of our value, and run this code, it will return our key value pair here, which is match 6. So let me return our index here. So let me pass other values and see. Let's call this ht at index of match 8 is equal to 67. Let's also pass another key value pair at index of match 9 is equal to 16. So let me comment this out, then print our table and see. As you can see, we have at index of 1 match 8 to be 67. So when this is hashed, it hashes to the index of 1. Index of 2 we have match 9 down to index of 9 where we have match 6. So let's try to fetch. Let me fetch match 8 and see. Let's run this code again and see. So we have 67. So this is how to set and get a value or key value pair in a hash table. Let's try our delete function, right? So I think it should be before the print table here, so that's see. So let's do that now. So we have ht, let's delete ht at index of, let's delete match 8 and see 8. So let's run this code and see. So match 8 we have, see match 8 at index of 1 is now an empty array. Let me comment this out and run this code again and see. So match 8 is located at index of 1, which is 0, 1. So when I delete this now and run my code, then I get an empty array. This has been deleted from the hash table. So this is simply the implementation of hash table in Python. So in our next tutorial, we're going to be resolving and talking about collision in hash table. So I hope this tutorial is educative enough and simple. I hope you've learned from it. If you do, kindly subscribe, share and like this video for more videos like this. See you in our next video. Bye for now.